Imagine you need to build a city from scratch. The location you choose could determine its success or failure. Now, apply this concept to an entire country. Some territories are blessed with fertile soils, navigable rivers, and pleasant climates. Others, however, face extreme challenges that make development difficult. Today, we will explore the countries with the most challenging geographies in the world and understand how the environment can shape the fate of a nation. I'm Arthur, and you are on GeoFacts. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, consisting of around 17,000 islands, with about 6,000 inhabited. While this creates incredible biodiversity and cultural diversity, it also presents serious challenges. Transportation between islands is heavily reliant on boats and planes, making infrastructure development costly and inefficient compared to nations with contiguous landmasses. Another issue is that each island tends to have distinct cultures, languages, and even religions, which sometimes leads to separatist movements and political instability. Additionally, Indonesia sits on the Ring of Fire, making it highly prone to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. The capital, Jakarta, is sinking due to rising sea levels, forcing the government to relocate it to Nusantara on the island of Borneo. Nepal is entirely landlocked, sandwiched between two of the world's largest and most powerful nations, China and India. Its dependence on India for maritime access and fuel imports makes it geopolitically vulnerable. A blockade from India, like the one in 2015, can cripple Nepal's economy. Nepal's geography is also extreme, ranging from 59 meters above sea level to Mount Everest at 8,848 meters. While this rugged terrain is breathtaking, it severely limits the construction of infrastructure like highways and railroads, making transportation and trade difficult. Additionally, the steep slopes make Nepal highly prone to landslides and earthquakes with devastating consequences. Chile is one of the longest countries in the world, stretching over 4,000 kilometers from north to south, yet its width averages just 177 kilometers. This unusual shape makes governing, transporting goods, and developing infrastructure complex. The country is flanked by the Pacific Ocean on one side and the Andes Mountains on the other, leaving little room for expansion. The northern region is dominated by the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, making agriculture nearly impossible there. On top of that, Chile sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, making it one of the most earthquake-prone nations in the world. Despite these challenges, Chile has emerged as one of South America's most stable and prosperous nations, proving that geographical disadvantages can be overcome. Russia, the largest country on Earth, has vast territory and abundant natural resources. However, its sheer size also creates major challenges. The country borders 14 nations, 2 of which possess nuclear weapons. Defending such an extensive landmass is incredibly difficult. If an enemy were to attack from the east, mobilizing forces across the country would be slow and logistically complex. Additionally, despite its size, Russia struggles with maritime access. It has very few warm water ports, meaning many of its naval bases freeze over during winter, limiting year-round naval operations. To make matters worse, key maritime routes pass through waters controlled by NATO or NATO-aligned nations, further restricting Russia's global reach. The Great European Plain is another major vulnerability. This vast, flat region in Eastern Europe has historically made Russia susceptible to invasions. If Russia could change one aspect of its geography, it would likely add a mountain range between itself and Europe. Unlike most South American nations, Bolivia is landlocked, meaning it has no direct access to the ocean. This has severely limited its economic potential, as international trade is more expensive without ports. Bolivia once had coastline, but lost it to Chile in the War of the Pacific. Today, it must rely on neighboring countries for maritime trade. Additionally, Bolivia's geography is harsh. The Altiplano region has high elevation, causing lower oxygen levels and making agriculture difficult. Meanwhile, the Amazon basin region is hot and humid, but lacks infrastructure to support large-scale development. These extremes make it hard for Bolivia to unify as a nation and develop a strong economy. Afghanistan is a country defined by its mountains. Roughly 80% of its land is covered by rugged terrain. This has historically made it difficult to unify as a nation, contributing to ongoing political instability. The Hindu Kush mountain range isolates different regions, making infrastructure projects like roads and railways incredibly difficult and expensive. Afghanistan is also landlocked, meaning it must rely on neighboring countries for trade access. Additionally, its location between Iran, Pakistan, China, and Central Asia has made it a battleground for centuries, as different empires and modern superpowers have sought to control it. The harsh geography also impacts agriculture. Water is scarce in many regions, and a combination of droughts and overgrazing has led to desertification. These factors contribute to Afghanistan's ongoing economic struggles. Chad is one of the most geographically disadvantaged countries in Africa. Roughly 90% of its land is covered by the Sahara Desert, making agriculture extremely difficult. The Lake Chad Basin, once a vital source of water, has been shrinking due to climate change, threatening millions of people who depend on it. Chad is also landlocked, meaning it has no access to seaports, making international trade expensive. Its infrastructure is severely underdeveloped, with very few paved roads and a weak energy grid. Additionally, Chad is surrounded by politically unstable neighbors like Sudan, Libya, and the Central African Republic, making security a constant concern. Mongolia is the world's second-largest landlocked country and is one of the most sparsely populated nations on Earth. Most of its land consists of steppes, deserts, and mountains, making agriculture challenging. The country experiences extreme temperatures, with winters dropping below -40 degrees Celsius and summers reaching 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Mongolia is sandwiched between Russia and China, two global superpowers. It has historically struggled to maintain its sovereignty due to its geographic position. Additionally, water resources are limited, with much of the land unsuitable for farming, forcing Mongolia to rely on imports for food. Unlike landlocked countries, the Maldives faces the opposite issue. It is entirely surrounded by water, making it highly vulnerable to climate change. With an average elevation of just 1.5 meters above sea level, it is one of the lowest-lying countries in the world. Scientists warn that rising sea levels could make the Maldives uninhabitable by 2100. The country's economy relies heavily on tourism, but its geographical isolation makes importing goods expensive. Additionally, the Maldives is extremely vulnerable to natural disasters like tsunamis, which could devastate its infrastructure. Bangladesh faces multiple geographical challenges. Despite being relatively small, it is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. It is highly vulnerable to flooding due to its position in the Ganges Delta, one of the largest river deltas on Earth. Rising sea levels and soil erosion threaten to displace millions of people in the coming decades. Additionally, Bangladesh experiences extreme weather, including cyclones and monsoons, which frequently cause widespread destruction. The combination of a growing population, shrinking land, and natural disasters makes Bangladesh one of the most at-risk nations on Earth. Which country do you think has the worst natural geography? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. See you in the next video.